Travels of the Ellis Arbor is an audio narrative set in the world of Bastion using 5e compatible characters. A dark fantasy world with chaos, intrigue, magic, and mystery. The story, setting, and sounds are written by Lonomy and published by lonomy.creative. Tune in for episode 9, Gestalt. The adrenaline of combat still heavy in the air, the crew of the Ellis Arbor looked on as the stagnant pools of brine began to subside. Strangely, no cult or crevice revealed itself as the tide began to recede. Only the decaying remnants of a long-forgotten cellar lay bare upon the algae-soaked floor. The same incandescent glow of the magical sigil upon the southern wall began to reflect a caustic yellow light upon the water. And after a moment of tension, the glow began to also drain from the arcana, and a drained cellar lay before them. Cautiously, a number of the crew began to step round the captain and began surveying their area. Nout and Edward, practiced in the art of prying open treasures and trinkets, made a quick search of the stores that remained. From within the battered and mold-covered crates, a handful of glass jars and wine bottles survived, likely as useful as any other rations that they may find within the sanctuary. Pocketing a selection of supplies, Edward managed to clear the remnants of algae off a sizable bottle of crimson-coloured wine, and handing it to the captain. Carpathian stepped forward, his staff outstretched as he surveyed the scene. Amidst the myriad of supplies, the bodies of no less than 9 people lay strewed and drowned among the scene. Like the child before, there were 2 other children, human in appearance, who had likely been down here when the cellar had flooded. Among the others, a mixture of old and young, men and women, as likely to be a family of whoever had lived here before them. Content on his findings, he stood firm in the middle of the cellar, thrusting his staff into the stone and creating a deep black impression. With his eyes closed and his left hand outstretched, he began to etch black markings in the air. A mixture of arcana and occult magic, springing from his fingertips. As he weaved his arcana, similar asymmetrical lines began to etch into his red skin, crawling from his fingertips and almost leaking from his eyes. Finally, as the spell was cast, his eyes flashed open, revealing a pupilless, vague expression of otherworldliness. Though the crew was all too familiar with the kind of magics that their wizard brought to bear. Onomancy, the study of names, and the power in knowing. It was clear that Carpathian had hoped to divine the nature of these lost souls, glimpsing into the past and reckoning how and why they were left to rot in a chapel cellar. Any who were unfamiliar with the ways in which onomancy was cast would have sworn on their life that they were privy to a ghastly necromantic ritual. After a period of minutes, Carpathian's eyes returned to normal, and he turned toward the captain, who had begun lifting the cork from the bottle of wine and had found a roughly intact goblet for his own.
A curious tale these people tell. I had not expected much from my scry, and indeed, the lack of insight is perhaps more telling than I could have imagined. These people's true identities have been lost to the avenues of time. Now, they all share the same moniker. All of them bear the very same name. Curious, don't you think, Darian?
And turning toward the wizard, Darian began to pour into his goblet, barely regarding the wizard as he did so, with a sullen piety.
You have gleaned the true names of dragons, demons, and angels, Carpathian. Why would a handful of dead sea folk be remotely interesting to you? Do they share a name with a devil you have some knowledge of?
No, not a devil. At least, not one that has spread wings and cast us into fire yet. Though, you are likely to be fathomed by their current moniker.
He paused, waiting for the captain to hazard a guess, before pointing up the vacant stairway.
These forgotten souls share the same name as our missing host. I searched through all of their memories and found nothing but a single name. Adeline.
And at this, the entire crew turned toward Carpathian. Edward had feverishly begun searching through boxes that appeared to contain unspoiled sweets, but turned sharply toward the wizard, and not before catching himself from falling headfirst into a waterlogged crate. Well, that can't be right, can it? Surely these dead people cannot share the same name as the woman who welcomed us in. That would be absurd. Are you sure your magic works? Perhaps you're out of practice. A sharp and cutting reply ran across Carpathian's lips.
I am always certain. My magic is foolproof, and these souls are not able to repel its bewitching effects. What's more, these people are only mostly dead. They were as likely to wake from their slumber as those that we have become recently acquainted.
Again, Carpathian turned toward the captain, pointing toward the hammer on his waist.
You had best perform your rites now, before any of them decide to make a meal of us. Quickly. I sense that whatever life stirs behind their eyes will not be so welcoming as the living Adeline.
And with a nod, Darian grasped the head of his silver hammer, turning the flat edge to face him, and he looked at the symbol of the Lady of Blood. With a wave of his hand, the brand began to glow a faint crimson color, before warming slightly in his grasp. One by one, he placed the hammer firmly upon the silken skin of the dead humans. And as he did, the symbol burned hot and sealed itself upon the pallid flesh. A right that was gifted to him through his unrelenting tether to the goddess Carmine, and one that would surely see these creatures to their final rest. And as he turned to each body in turn, the faint warmth of the hammer seemed to almost draw moisture out of their bodies. Unseeming at first, but every single body began to drip with an aqueous moisture that pooled from their mouths, spilling onto the floor. Each and every body exuded the same clear liquid as the brand was burned onto their skin. Despite this strange occurrence, not a single body rose in defiance, and the captain was certain that the Crimson Rite would stay their wrath. It was at this time, perhaps no more than 30 minutes into their search, that their squat, myconid companion came barreling into the cellar. They'd been strangely absent throughout their search, for the captain had only assumed that they had hoped to keep their spores from mixing with their human surroundings. Stepping quickly up to the captain, the insistent mumbling gave the crew pause as more began to babble about some new phenomenon. More! And turning toward Edward, the only of their number that could successfully deduce the crude ramblings of the myconid. The crew awaited a translation, and Edward cocked his head for a moment, before pausing as his eyes widened. Apparently, Adeline has stirred. Moore says that she looked down upon the balcony toward the cellar, and she didn't look happy. In fact, Moore thinks that she looked really angry.
I suppose I would be upset if somebody had raided my cellar too. Especially if I was hiding a mass of dead humans who shared my name. Come, let us see what secrets she has yet to tell us. Nout, grab what you can. We may have to find new lodgings when this is over.
And each, with a curt nod, followed the captain up the staircase and into the chapel proper. There, upon the edges of the staircase, Adeline floated, with her robed hand outstretched upon the banister. As Moore had said, her beautiful porcelain features were turned into a deathly, stern frown. Even without her censure, the aroma of ashen rose perfume permeated the air, cleansing the chapel of its humid, aqueous scent. Her hood now drawn back, revealing a crown of braids, platinum blonde, and wreathed with what appeared to be a blue ribbon. She continued to descend the staircase as it drifted slowly over her shoulder. And as she began to speak, their minds began to comprehend the walls around them. The same grey stone, pockmarked with age, gave off a sea-worn appearance. The very chapel itself began to echo as Adeline spoke her words, seeming to join her in a chorus of dark displeasure. Tell me, children, what secrets have you found within my sanctuary? Speak quickly, before those secrets deny you your safety. Enraptured by her beauty, her perfume, and the echoing chorus around them, the crew failed to notice as the pools of aqueous bile that fell from each of the dead bodies began to gather. Creeping up the staircase, the liquor that fell from the lips of the dead began to form, swelling and growing until it filled the corridor behind them. Travels of the Ellis Arbor is made possible by the generous support of our subscribers, followers, and, most notably, our patrons. Thanks to Rob Jenkin, Nathan Ebley, and Ensign Turtle for supporting us so far on this journey. Please subscribe, give a like or a comment, follow us on Twitter, and stay tuned for the next episode. Don't forget, take care of each other.